final season. This is one of my favorite times of the year. One, because of the flannels, but two, it's that perfect time where it's kind of starting to get a little cozy, a little colder, chilly in the mornings, but it's not full on winter yet. But what this means is a lot of change on the homestead. So today we're going to be walking through kind of what it looks like to transition from summer and fall to winter. Now we're transitioning seasons, transitioning mindsets in a little way, and I'll talk about that in a second. But there's a lot to do, so let's get after it. So there's three things that we kind of need to get done today, and that is first, to clean out the coop for the winter. So for our chicken coop every year, we use what's called the deep litter method. It's pretty popular amongst most people that have chickens, and essentially all it is you stack up layers of fresh bedding. And what's nice about it is at the bottom of it starts to kind of compost over time. Usually 3 times a year, I would say, we would change out the bedding then. And then we put the old bedding into the compost, put fresh bedding in, and the cycle starts itself over. So we're gonna clean the bedding out behind us. One thing that's gonna be different that we're gonna try is we have a ton of pine needles. Usually we use pine shavings that we just buy from the store, but we're gonna try the pine needles and we're gonna see how that does for bedding. It's free. It's here, it's accessible. We don't have any pine shavings, so we're gonna try the pine needles. From my research, it seems like pine needles work, but they're just not as absorbent as what pine shavings would be. So we might have to put fresh bedding on a little bit more frequently to start with these pine needles, but I'm curious, if you've ever used pine needles as chicken bedding, let me know. How does it work? We're gonna try it. If it fails, it fails, and we'll know for the future. But now comes the fun part. Cleaning out the poopy bedding. So we got the coop cleaned out, and while I was cleaning the coop, Sarah was corralling all of our pine needles. So we're gonna dump it in and we're gonna see how it turns out.
Alright. Too bad Gus isn't here. He'd love this job. Oh. Sorry. Smells good. You're gonna be some good smelling chickens. Especially stinky Chloe. It's disgusting.
You guys like it?
Leave some eggs in there.
Smells like a new car, huh? Huh? So we got one of our 3 things done today. The coop is all set, ready to go for the winter. We're gonna see how the pine needles do. I don't know, we like to experiment. So now we're back in the garden. We are going to also do an experiment this year in the garden. We have done in the past where we've done like a fall cleanup where we took all the plants out, and it's, if you look online, you do some research, it's usually not recommended to take all the plants out and just leave it, because the soil can go away. It affects the insects and the pollinators that are in there. And then last year we kind of left the garden completely and just cleared it out in the spring before we planted. And this year we're gonna do a mix of both. We're gonna try like a chop and drop method. So we're going to cut off most of the plants, but then we're gonna leave the root system in place. And what that's gonna do is, in theory, hold the soil and keep it all intact so that way it's not blowing away, it's not losing nutrients. And then come springtime, we'll clear it all out and we'll plant our new stuff and add some compost and things like that. So we're gonna clear through the garden. We have a good amount kind of already done. It was a great garden year. It was a great garden year. But we're gonna finish it off and we're gonna see what it looks like.
Really getting that hefty up in there. Oh dear, this is a big boy. Oh. Holy Tic Tac. I need to go back to the gym.
All right, time to get these big sunflowers. These things are intense. They're like this one right here. It's hard to tell on camera, but it's probably like 3.5 inches in the base around. It's like it's a small tree. And these other ones are a couple inches, so I don't know, we'll see. Might have to get the chainsaw out to get these down, but you want it? Here you go. Knock yourself out. There you go, Zoe. Timber. Time for the big behemoth here.
What?
I got it. So like in some of the beds here, you can see like this one, there's a lot of weeds that are still alive and well. I think we're just gonna leave these in here though over winter and they'll die off. And then in the spring we'll pull them up, but they'll still keep the soil in place and kind of do its job. And hopefully they won't go to seed anytime soon because that's not good, but we're gonna have frost here coming up real quick. So they should probably die off in the next couple weeks and then they'll just add nutrients back into the soil here. Oh. We got all the beds situated for the winter here, which is pretty cool, and it actually wasn't too bad. I mean, we just literally dropped it, threw it back on the bed, and we're gonna see how it goes over the winter. Sarah and I were talking, we're kind of like the people that just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, and then when it doesn't work, we like to report back to YouTube here. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah. Let me know in the comments if you guys have a preferred way to clean your garden. If you like to do it in the spring, like to do it in the fall, like to do the chop and drop, kind of the in-between. If you don't have a garden, you can say that too, that's cool. So we got this done, which is great. This was a big task that didn't take as long as I thought, but now comes the behemoth, which is wood. We got to get the rest of it chopped up because otherwise we're not going to have any heat. But here we go, chopping wood, cutting wood. It's a lot of work. My back's gonna hurt. The wind picked up here as soon as we started working on this. We're on the final task of the day, the big one, the final boss, if you will, getting our wood cut as much as we can for the winter. Right now I'm in the woodshed and it's relatively full, but we have a lot of wood that still needs to be cut, and I was just doing some chopping and I'm out of breath. And right now we have a lot of oak that needs to be cut, oak is an excellent firewood because it's a hardwood, it is a long burning, it burns really hot, and it's great, but it's really hard to work with. It's really hard on the chainsaw to cut up and it's really hard to chop. So it takes me a lot longer to do something like oak than some of the softwoods. So I'm gonna start. We're gonna cut up with some chainsaws, get some of that cut up, and then we'll start chopping and hopefully not break our back. So here we go. So we got a lot of the wood done, and it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work to chop and cut, and we were cutting the oak stuff up, and it's hard wood, literally hard wood, and this saw did not react well to it. And yeah, I gotta figure out a plan to get the rest of it cut up because it didn't want to cut most of it. So I don't know, we'll figure it out. We got a ton of wood though, so hopefully we should be good for the winter, and if not, we'll turn on our in-floor heating. But yeah, the transition every year from fall and summer and fall into winter is always a big one, but we got the big projects out of the way, which is good, and it feels good. One of the things that we kind of talked about at the very beginning was it's a transition of like projects and activities that we do on the homestead, but it's also a transition kind of our mindset and how we approach the winter. And for us, the winter is really a slowdown period. It's a time for rest, it's a time to recharge, time for planning in some senses, but a lot of our projects, a lot of our activities slow way down compared to the summer. We're not planting a garden, we're not managing a garden, pulling weeds and making sure all the plants and vegetables and everything are healthy. We're not maintaining the lawn, we're not chopping wood in the winter. Really the winter is taking care of the animals, bringing wood inside to burn, and keeping on top of the snowfall. But other than that, it's really a rest and relaxation time, and it's nice, and it's, I think, needed to kind of go with the seasons, go with the cycles of the year, because I think that's how we were kind of made to be, just as a human species, and going with the daytime and going with the seasons. So I don't know, that's something that we've been reflecting on a lot, is how can we really enter this season to rest and recharge. And you know, it's always crazy with holidays and the new year and everything like that, but that's something that we're going to be hopefully focusing on a lot more this year. And who knows, we'll see what the winter brings. It's always a fun time, it's always a long time. I wish it was a month shorter on both ends, but it's our choice and our fault for living in Wisconsin, so that's what we get. Thank you guys for coming along with us today as we get the homestead ready for the winter. My name is Austin, wife Sarah, and our little dude Gus. We're just out here kind of documenting our life on a modern homestead and what it's like, and the challenges and the failures and the successes and the joys and everything in between. So we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.